The average service member receives orders to move duty stations every 2 to 4 years during their career. This means more than 400,000 service members make a PCS each year. A permanent change of station, or more commonly known as a PCS, is a longer term assignment working as their home base. The military member may still be deployed or temporarily assigned to other locations while living at their permanent duty station. This forced semi-nomadic lifestyle creates instability and additional financial challenges. All branches are actively messaging their attempt to reduce the number of required PCSs, acknowledging the financial and emotional costs. The majority of PCS orders involve the relocation of the service member and their dependents if they have them. Orders that entitle dependents to move with the service member are referred to as accompanied orders. Accompanied orders are typically 36 months long and can be within the US or overseas. Accompanied orders are relatively unremarkable in their execution or entitlements. When dependents are not authorized to move with the service member, these are known as unaccompanied orders. This is often due to the nature of the assignment, hazardous living conditions of the duty station or area, or availability of services at these locations. These assignments are generally no more than 24 months long and are often overseas locations. And when unaccompanied, it is additional financial impact considerations surrounding housing and allowances, not to mention the stresses and emotions of separation. The process of assigning a member to accompanied or unaccompanied tour is determined by the needs of the military and does not take into account whether or not the service member has dependents. The only time the needs of the dependents are considered is when they are in the EFMP program, requiring special medical services be available. Frequent moves create financial hardships, which will be discussed later. It's important to know that while accompanied orders give dependents the opportunity to move and live with their service member, it does not require them to move. It's not uncommon to find a service member unaccompanied at a new duty station by choice. This is referred to as being a geographical bachelor, or geobachelling for short. The family could choose to live separately for many reasons. These considerations include the spouse's employment and career prospects. Perhaps the spouse does not want to endure frequent moves and interruptions to employment and chooses to build their career in a single location. Or the family may rely on second income and the new duty station location does not have a promising job market. Other family considerations include having dependents with special needs, caring for elderly family members, or not wanting to interrupt a child's final years in high school. When the family has weighed the pros and cons of PCSing together and found the benefits of living separately to be greater, they have a few living options. Some choose to live apart because the home they own would be a greater financial burden due to a slow rental market. They can choose to remain in that owned home at that old duty station. They can also choose to move in with a family member located anywhere. This choice is often made to reduce the cost of housing by paying lower than fair market value or no rent at all to the family member. There is also the uncertain option of moving to the follow-on installation. Skipping a duty station to move to the next is a gamble. While service members can sometimes narrow the location of their next assignment based on their time in service and rate, it is not guaranteed. While the goal is to issue PCS orders at least 120 days before the report date, they can be issued or changed as quickly as 10 days before the report date. In a personal story, my family was issued PCS orders about 120 days from the report date, and 11 days before our movers were scheduled to pack our belongings, we were issued PCS orders for an entirely different location. Nothing is guaranteed in the military until after it happens. The amount of basic housing allowance, BAH, will be based on the service member's PCS orders, not where the family is located. This is something to take into consideration for the budget. If the GeoBatch location has a lower cost of living, there might be a reduction in the BAH received. This loss of income per se needs to be factored into expenses. Alternatively, if it has a higher cost of living, the BAH could be greater. The greater amount should be considered thoughtfully so as not to unsustainably rely on a perceived temporary income increase. The potential to double expenses should also be taken into consideration. Not only will the service family be paying living expenses for the spouse and children, but they will also have to pay separate expenses for the service member. The service member will likely need to engage a rental property, as the option for living in unaccompanied quarters on base for free is not always an option. PCS travel time is the allotted time service members are authorized to complete their move from one duty station to another. The number of days given for travel depends on several factors, including distance, mode of travel, and whether dependents are accompanying. Even if PCS orders come at the last minute, the service member is given a safe number of days to make their transit. If the distance is greater than 350 miles, that total distance is divided by 350 to produce the total number of days allotted. If less than 400 miles, the total travel time allotted is 1 day. Mileage is reimbursed for the distance traveled on official orders. Extensions are provided for emergencies and unexpected events beyond the service member's control. Requests for additional travel days for valid reasons must be approved by the appropriate military authority. It's also common to find service members combining vacation with their PCS. Traveling across the country brings you closer to friends, family, entertainment, and other natural attractions that might not otherwise be explored. Leave can be requested for vacation opportunities, and the total travel time is adjusted by the approved additional time. Vacation days are not added in the PCS pay, allowances, and entitlement totals. During the time that a service member leaves one command and joins the next command, they are afforded transit BAH. This is the housing allowance provided between duty stations, or while the service member is in temporary status before moving into permanent housing. The primary purpose is to help cover short-term housing costs during the transition period. This is used most commonly as the service member is waiting to move into on-base housing or for moves outside the continental US, known as OCONUS moves. The transit BAH is calculated on the previous duty station, number of days in transit, rank, and dependent status. It replaces the regular BAH. Regular and transit BAH cannot overlap in receipt. A BAH calculator can be used to determine the amount that will be received. There are two types of moves. The first is what is considered a traditional military move or government procured move. With this type of move, the Department of Defense contracts with the moving company to pack, move, and temporarily store, if necessary, household goods for the PCS. Payment is made directly from the DoD to the moving company. When the movers come to estimate the household weight, it is important to take note of this. If the weight of the household goods exceed the maximum allowable weight, the member or family must pay the difference in cost or reduce their belongings to be moved by the company. The second most common way to move is personally procured move, or PPM, what used to be known as the DITY move. In this scenario, the service member contracts and coordinates the move of personal belongings, from engaging the moving company to paying for supplies. There is a perception that money can be gained by doing it yourself, when taking full advantage of the entitlements and allowances and contracting with moving services at discounted prices. This is rarely the case, as moving expenses tend to be higher than the service member projects. Money can be lost if the moving company does not provide the proper paperwork verifying the cost to be submitted for reimbursement. If the service member is considering a PPM for the reason of making money per se, it's important to detail the expenses, both reimbursed and hidden, and consider lackluster customer service from companies that could reduce the funds received in total. It's important to factor in the amount of time it takes to coordinate and follow up with this process. The military reimburses the bulk of this type of move, but the service member should not expect to receive the reimbursement for several months later. If the cost of the move is floated on a credit card, the service member can expect to pay at least the first bill without receiving reimbursement. There are pros and cons to each type of move. Convenience, report date, deployment status, distance, household goods quantity, and financial capacity are all considerations when choosing how to move. Why are we even talking about financial implications of PCSing? Doesn't the military pay for everything else? While they do pay for some things, there are other things that they do not pay. If you noticed, when we spoke about the types of moves, it only covered the transportation of household goods, not the people, pets, and lifestyle. We will be reviewing the different types of entitlements and allowances that could apply to a PCS. Carefully keeping records and receipts during the PCS cannot be stressed enough to ensure all entitled reimbursements and limiting out-of-pocket expenses. Keeping a large envelope, folder, or PCS binder available to quickly tuck receipts and other paperwork can be incredibly helpful. Organization and attention to detail will be key. To prepare for out-of-pocket and floating expenses, it is recommended that a PCS savings fund, similar to an emergency savings fund, be kept at around $2,000. While this doesn't fully cover the average out-of-pocket expenses incurred at $5,000, it makes great effort in keeping debt from creeping up. It can also help cushion holiday expenses when PCSing occurs around the same time. While it's considered to be PCS season between Memorial Day and the 4th of July, in truth, PCSing happens year-round. We understand not every service member will be able to have a fully funded emergency savings and PCS savings fund. Reminding that one fund could serve dual purposes until they are able to be individually funded may be encouraging. As with all mentorship, the focus is to help educate and start the foundation of positive financial habits. There are several potential hidden expenses that need to be considered and factored into a moving budget. Please take a moment to review these expenses. Note that a loss or decrease of income from the spouse will also impact the finances, either temporarily as new employment is gained, or for the duration of the assignment if a lower wage or no employment can be found. Some spouses may be eligible for unemployment benefits when PCSing orders were the reason for the job loss. We will discuss this a little bit more in the non-military government program slide. In preparation for the PCS, it is wise to determine the entitlements and amount for each. The amount paid and reimbursed for moves varies by branch. They can search their Department of Defense travel website or visit their dispersing office for details. The service member needs to be proactive and highly organized during the PCS to ensure finances are impacted as minimally as possible. The Government Travel Credit Card, GTCC, can play a crucial role during a PCS by providing a financial tool for service members to cover travel and related expenses. It is the primary method for official government travel expenses, but is not authorized for every PCS. While it can be used for PCSing, the travel card is mainly used during temporary assignments and occasional deployments. The travel card is issued to the service member in their names and does affect their credit, but the card is not under their control. It is at the discretion of the command as to whether it is activated for the service member's use, or even if they are allowed to carry it on their person during inactivated periods. Under no circumstances can the government travel card be used for personal expenses. Authorized charges that are not reimbursed in a timely manner by the command's finance department will require a minimum monthly payment to be made by the service member or the finance department. This payment will eventually be reimbursed if paid by the service member, but it is the service member's responsibility to keep on top of the balance and payments.
There are several myths around the government travel credit card. These are just a few. If your participant has a question, encourage them to seek written instruction rather than word of mouth for the answer.
To help with the cost of incidentals, service members do receive a per diem rate. The tax-free income is provided starting the first day they leave their duty station and ends the first day they arrive at their new duty station. Any delays or leave taken in conjunction with PCS will not accumulate per diem. The members receive 100% of the per diem rate. The service member is provided per diem for dependents based on age and accompanying status. Most often, the service family will travel together. In that case, dependents over the age of 12 receive a 75% per diem rate, while those under 12 receive it at 50%. When traveling without the service member due to any number of reasons, one dependent, most often the adult spouse, will receive 100% of the rate, and other dependents receive it at the accompanying rate. For those PCSing overseas, their per diem will likely be slightly higher, but is a similar delivery. Like all military entitlements and allotments, the rate of per diem varies by location and even the day of travel being pursued. This chart gives an example of how different locations are entitled to different amounts. The service member must keep receipts and is reimbursed to the max allotted. Anything above the max is paid out of pocket. Lodging can outpace the reimbursement rate. Government lodging does not incur out-of-pocket costs even when it goes over the max reimbursement rate. While government lodging is generally required during temporary assignments, it is less likely to fall in the travel path for PCSing. Some of the out-of-pocket lodging expenses can be recouped. For meals and incidental expenses, receipts are typically not required. The service member is provided a flat fee listed instead. It is prudent to keep all expense receipts. Service members also receive a dislocation allowance, or DLA. This is tax-free money. This tax-free money is meant to cover any miscellaneous expenses that come with a PCS that are not otherwise reimbursed. The amount received varies based by rank and dependent status. DLA is not automatically paid to the service member. Those funds can be received in advance of the move. Advanced DLA must be requested approximately 10 to 15 days before the move. The request window and deadline for after-move requests will vary by branch. Even though there is paperwork and time involved, it is highly recommended they request advanced DLA, especially for those with tight finances. The funds can be a significant help in offsetting the hidden expenses we reviewed in the beginning. Temporary lodging expense, TLE, is provided to help offset the cost of temporary lodging and meals. This is used especially when moving to Alaska or Hawaii. This is different from per diem in that it pays for lodging while the service member is preparing to depart or waiting for permanent housing. It can be used at the current duty station if a hotel is needed before moving out of their home and waiting to start travel. It can also be used when they arrive in their new duty station and waiting on their housing to move in. There is a max of 14 days that can be requested either at the old duty station, the new duty station, or split between the locations. Again, receipts must be provided. Temporary lodging allowance, or TLA, is the same but for overseas duty locations. The government travel card can be used to pay for the TLE and TLA reimbursable expenses if the service member has access to it, or it can be requested in advance. It's typically requested after the move is complete. The amount provided is rank, location, and actual cost dependent. Pet transportation allowance is the newest funding allotment. While statistics about pet ownership amongst military members are not widely tracked, pets are a significant part of many military family households. Studies and surveys indicate pets play a crucial role in providing emotional support and stability, especially during frequent relocations and deployment. Military Family Advisory Network 2021 survey found that 44% of military families own dogs and 21% own cats. Moving with animals poses special challenges, especially if choosing to take them overseas. Some families make difficult decisions about permanently or temporarily rehoming their pet due to PCS moves. This is especially true for overseas assignments, as pet restrictions, quarantine rules, and transportation costs can be prohibited. The pet transportation allowance helps absorb some of these costs. This allotment has very specific requirements. It's important to understand these requirements. We are always looking for ways to bridge the gap between out-of-pocket costs and breaking even. So while the amount of money that is likely to be returned by filing for moving related expenses isn't a lot, it's something that they can be aware of. Unemployment compensation can help bridge the financial gap as they shift from dual income to single income status. Military spouses will need to check their eligibility status. Each state has different rules, so they will want to research that state they are leaving, as that is where they will apply. Some factors figuring into eligibility include minimum hours worked, the reason for leaving in employment, so make sure they notify that PCSing was the reason for quitting, geographical distance between their old employer and their new location, and whether they will pursue employment opportunities in the new location. The bottom line is that even though the spouse may not always be deemed eligible for unemployment compensation, it is worth checking into. Spouses with student loans can also look into applying for unemployment deferment. Participants can be guided to the student loan resource for more information, particularly the nonprofit TISLA, TISLA, to answer specific questions at no cost. Residency also becomes a choice when PCSing. Per the Service Member Civil Relief Act and Military Spouse Relief Act, as discussed in the tax module, the service member and the spouse have the option to change or keep residency each time they move. The member can keep their home of record or switch to the current location. The spouse has these options as well as choosing the home and record of the service member. This is a very important factor that can influence income taxation throughout the military career and should be considered whenever they move into a state with a lesser tax burden. If either one decides to maintain their out-of-state residency, they can continue to be a part of the political world of their home state by signing up for vote-by-mail options. For those living overseas, they can visit the Federal Voting Assistance Program online, navigate to their state of residency, and complete the requirements for military members. If the military member or spouse is called to jury duty in the state of residency where they are not residing, they simply need to notify the court of active duty service to be provided an exemption. Attention also needs to be paid to vehicles. It's appropriate to update your out-of-state driver's license to reflect your current address. This can sometimes prevent jury summons and will also ensure that any mailed traffic or Department of Transportation communication is received in a timely manner. While the vehicle license plate can remain with the out-of-state license plate, it's not a bad idea to update the personal mailing address to that as well. The variances in costs of vehicle tax, title, and registration can also be considerations. Regardless of the state that is chosen for residency, the vehicle insurance must be for the current state.